All right, man. It's Cool Water, the digital dope man. Back on this thing. Back on the microphone. It's been a minute since I got on the mic. It's been a lot going on, but I just ain't been in a position where I want to get on here and speak. So we're going to do the housekeeping first. Shout out to No Name on this first little beat. That's his requirement. It's a little track, little banging track off YouTube. And his requirement is you got to shout him out. And he the producer. So the beat is banging. You know, I ain't finna take nothing from him. Because I would want the same if somebody was using my beat. So we're going to give him that much love. But tonight, I want to really look deeper into Snoop Dogg's analysis. Let me rephrase that. Look deeper into Snoop Dogg acquiring Death Row Records. And really what that means. You understand? And some of the things that I've heard out of Snoop's mouth, other outlets, and so forth. So this podcast is really going to be about Snoop Dogg acquiring Death Row. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm Cool Water, the digital dope man. I run a podcast called Barroom Chats. And the podcast is basically designed to have simple conversation like if you was at the bar. Unfortunately, we not set up like that, but somewhere down the line we will be. And the visual will match the title of the podcast itself. So, well, we delve in the area of entertainment, politics, culture, business, and education. That's kind of what we focus on with the Barroom Chats podcast. So at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that, we make it as comfortable for you all as possible and it's entertaining, because even though some of these topics may be gut-wrenching, they still have to be entertaining. Even though some of these topics may be thought-provoking, they still have to be entertaining. The large mass of Black America tends to move towards things that are entertaining because it's easier to digest and it doesn't require a lot of work. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people have to keep in account. You still got to get your message out, but you got to do it in a way, man, that's creative enough so these people will feel like they are getting something from it. So, Snoop Dogg acquired Death Row, we'll say within a 2-week period, 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. Death Row Records, and I've said this before in earlier podcasts, was one of the most prolific rap labels in the world. You had artists like Daz Dillinger, RBX, The Lady of Rage, Snoop Dogg, The Dog Pound, Dr. Dre, various other people would be, I was going to say Warren G, but not Warren G. Nate Dogg, and various other individuals would come in and out of Death Row to lend their musical talent. So the story basically goes like this. Dr. Dre is on Eazy-E's label, and he's part of NWA. And By this time, NWA is starting to falter. Cube is left. MC Ran is still there. Dre, MC Ran, Eazy-E, Yella. And Ruthless Records is falling apart. That's the label that Dre was on. So in the midst of that, Dre meets a dude named Suge Marion Knight. Suge was an ex-football player. I think he played at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And they decided to team up. They team up. And Suge becomes the... Well, let me go back a step further. Suge really gets in the game as a bodyguard, and through the DOC, who he was bodyguarding for, he introduces him to Dr. Dre. Him and Dre get to digging on each other, and they decide that they're going to start a label. That label was called Death Row Records. Death Row Records, at this time, needs funding. Because Cube done left. Cube told y'all he was getting fucked out his money. Jerry Heller was dipping in the checks. Eazy-E was dipping in the money as well. And things ain't looking right. So Eazy and Jerry ain't playing fair. Dre like, man, I'm finna get on. I should have listened to Cube when he told us, but I didn't. So him and Suge starts to form Death Row. But Dr. Dre has to get out of the contract, so there's a lot of beef and turmoil. As that movement progresses, big time old school D-boy Harry O is in prison. Suge gets plugged into Harry O. Harry O passes some money through their attorney, David Kenner, to help start Death Row Records. By this time, Dr. Dre is leaving and has went and moved in to Interscope Records with Jimmy Iovine. They get a interview with Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy like, okay, I like what I'm hearing. If you get some money, we'll do the distribution and get y'all going and get y'all out there. So that's kind of the story. The small variations of how that went. As time goes on, Warren G, who's cousins with Dr. Dre, is friends with Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is an up-and-coming rapper out of the LBC, Long Beach, California. Crip. The blue rag, not the red one. He was a Crip. So he in and out the street. He trying to find some way to get up. But he know Warren G, and Warren G is cool. Is cousins with Dr. Dre. Half cousins or something like that. Warren eventually takes Snoop to Dre. Dre falls in love with Snoop. They start to record. That's how Snoop comes into the Death Row picture. And then from there, other artists start to evolve and emerge. Okay? As time goes on, through the amount of money they receive to push this label out, through Interscope having the power to reach global distribution, Death Row, with some of the most bangingest, coldest tracks in hip-hop history, becomes one of the most prolific labels. And at this time, it's in the 90s, it's worth like 100 or something plus million. Then you got Tupac, who over here in jail on a technicality so-called rape charge, where he done got caught up. He eking to get out. Suge is looking for new talent, and Pac already got a name. So allegedly, Pac signs the Death Row on a napkin to get out of jail. He goes to Death Row. He records All Eyes on Me. that album is really what took Death Row to its epitome, to its height. Snoop's Doggy Style album, Gin and Juice, I'm sorry, or Doggy Style, I believe is what it was a banger. But Tupac took it to the next level. And you had to be living in this time period to fully understand it, because this is the 90s. This is like 93, 94. So the energy and the culture and the atmosphere of this music, man, was so prolific and so amazing that it was like nothing you've ever heard. Fast forward, time goes on. All these artists become superstars, but then we got tragedy. Death Row starts to have a lot of artists that was in and out of jail. Tupac ends up getting killed. Suge Knight is known as the industry bully. So he in and out of problems. Dr. Dre tired of the BS. He ready to get off of Death Row. Suge and them like, before you go, let me get them masters. Suge and Dre like, get them, because I'm gone. Dre leaves and starts Aftermath. Hence when he finds Eminem. He starts a whole new life. Snoop Dogg is over there on Death Row, man, having problems. And he's not quite getting paid the way he should be. He's not getting his royalties and all the other stuff. So he gets saved by Master P. Master P buys Snoop Dogg's contract for maybe $1 million, I believe he said. Maybe a couple of million. Suge tried to play the hardball, but money always talk. He sold the contract. P paid him. Snoop goes to No Limit. And as he goes to No Limit, he in the rebirth phase. You see what I'm saying? Fast forward 20 years later, Snoop is a mega multi star. Suge is in jail for vehicular homicide. Dr. Dre is still the most prolific producer in the game. He done put out Eminem. He done put out Kendrick Lamar. And has still producing some major records. Well, Death Row goes into bankruptcy. Suge loses Death Row to financial issues. White lady buys Death Row for about $12 million and acquires the catalog. Inevitably, she gets rid of it, and sells it to some other entertainment companies, if I'm not mistaken. It inevitably falls in the hands of Hasbro Toy Company, which got it through an acquisition of some other properties. Do you see what I'm saying? So the intellectual property, because we're talking about music, this is intellectual property. The intellectual property of the music is being passed around. And some of these white folk trying to leverage it to get the most out of it, because it's like real estate. You can leverage it, lean on it, borrow against it, and get the most out of it, and then flip around, make your money back and sell it. Okay, well now, from what I'm understanding, the company Blackstone, which is a major investment company, which also holds a lot of the derivatives, 401ks for the world, United States, has somehow acquired the catalog. I don't know if they still got Tupac's catalog, because that was supposed to have been picked up and picked back up by Warner Brother, because Tupac's mama ended up selling it back. Okay? So I'm setting this foundation for a reason, because I got to bring you up to speed so you fully understand what it is that I'm going to say afterwards, so it all makes sense. Okay? By this happening, and Blackstone and possibly another company, some entertainment company, having the rights to the catalog, they're looking to make money off of it because it's just sitting on their books. Again, this is a portfolio investment, just like if you was buying stocks, bonds, annuities, trust, cryptocurrency. This is in the portfolio. See, it's no good for them because they're not an entertainment company that's looking to push death row music and make money off of it. You know, you license it to the movies, you license it through commercials, you license it through ringtones, you license it through, you know, the jingles, you may use certain clips and voiceovers and certain things to put in cartoons. All of this, video games, all of this is the reasoning behind having the masters. The masters is what it is. It's the master. It's the original recordings of these entities, the music. Okay, so now fast forward, Snoop saying he's bought or has acquired Death Row Records. It did not come with the music. This is the analysis part that I'm getting at. Okay, and again, we 16 minutes in, but I got to take you here in order for you to fully understand what I'm saying. I don't want to keep these podcasts too long because a lot of y'all attention span is short. And y'all don't go and dig deep as you should. It's a reasoning for this. So Snoop acquired the name. Now, this is out of Snoop's mouth. He don't have the catalog. They're still in negotiations of the catalog. But he has the name, trademark name, whatever, of Death Row. So somebody allowed him to get the name, but now he comes out his mouth and he says, if they allow me to get the music. See, the most important piece is the music. And one of the things is the reason he don't have it is because that's a sign of power. See, we got to go back to some of these principles, some of the master teachers, John Henry Clark, Amos Wilson, especially Amos. That's power. See, him acquiring the masters is power. That means he could take that $100 million catalog and leverage it to $1 billion. Well, the white boys ain't finna allow Snoop to do that, possibly, unless they're attached to it. Who better to have a catalog than one of the original artists that was on the catalog? See? For him to take that and make that catalog valuable again. Because right now it has no value. That's the reasoning behind what I've been saying, on Facebook, him having a catalog, him acquiring Death Row. It comes with no music. Well, it comes with no value either. So Snoop, he could have got the same, because he been talking about, putting all these new artists under Death Row, but he could have did it under, he got a record company, Doghouse Records. He had Trey D and the other homie, the Crip homies that he fooled with, but they fell out from what I'm understanding because Snoop's handling of their business was not proper as they would like it to be, and they wasn't getting no money the way they should have thought they should have, and they didn't have probably the patience to go the distance because, again, it takes time. And then these dudes is older. See, they wasn't 18, 19, 20 when they came out. They might have been 30 or 35 when Snoop put them on. So you're looking at almost a 8 to 10 year span before you really can start eating. So they falls out. But so what Snoop has, and I want to make sure y'all clear, he has the intellectual name. I think he owns the trademark name of Death Row Records. But the masters, that's another subject because that comes as a power play. Now, he done hooked up with OG Harry O, who got let out of prison by Trump. Trump signed the executive orders and let a lot of these folks out of prison. You see what I'm saying? A lot of these folks got out of prison. That rap artist, Black somebody, I forgot that dude's name, man. He got out of prison based on Trump. But when you really start to analyze this shit and you really sit back and you go back in time, you have to understand the music industry and what it was about. It's a sharecropping business model. I'm not going to allow you to control the masters, because if you control the masters, he who controls the masters controls the whole game. He who controls the masters controls the whole game. And that's the real issue of what's going on when you start talking about Snoop Dogg acquiring Death Row. See? All these artists on there: Lady of Rage, RBX, Tupac, Daz Dillinger, Corrupt, Dr. Dre, Nate Dogg. If Snoop was to acquire the masters, he could give them their masters back and work out a deal with each one of them to be able to use their masters in order for them to acquire a certain amount of income. Well, the music industry then learned this lesson about letting Negroes have power and wealth. One of the reasons why Master P got off the way he did is because he was in a position where he controlled his masters. And P kind of embarrassed the music industry. So they was like, we ain't finna let no more Negroes get no more control. You pretty much either gotta do some type of joint venture, I don't even know how much joint venturing they do, where they got the lion's share and you got a portion, but it's always gonna be less on your end. Or you got to sign one of them slave contracts where they do the 360 deal. 50 Cent got a slave contract. He got the 360 deal contract. Eminem and Dr. Dre eat off 50 Cent and whatever he do. 50 just was able to flip it. Now, I don't know. I doubt if they getting any money over here in the television realm, because that's a whole nother game. 50 Cent to move past the music part. He over here in a whole nother business entity now. See? This is about power, wealth, and control. See, Snoop don't have no power. Even though he a top dog, top name, OG artist from back in the 90s to 2022, he has no power. He cannot go back to these white dudes and demand the masters. See? The investment company Blackstone got the masters. Hasbro may still have a piece of the masters. Snoop don't have no power. You understand? Snoop don't have no power. And when you start talking about going up against the music industry, you start talking about going against the old school mafia boys, because that's really where the music industry came out of, because the mob ran it in the early 30s, 40s, and 50s. They ran it, and they ran black artists in the ground. You was on the Chitlin circuit. You didn't get no money. You got your money off the performances, and you got cheated. I just looked at something with old school Chuck Berry on PBS. Chuck Berry making all these hits. But in order for that record to get on the radio, the white dude that ran the station, that was part of the promotion, he had to get his name listed in the credits as part of the writer's credit so he could get the lion's share of the publishing. Chuck Berry wasn't hardly getting no money, if he got any at all. And then when he did shows, because they found out he was a black man, they didn't want to pay him. So they getting Chuck for $500, but they charging, they making $3,000 a night on Chuck. Chuck had to get innovative, pay me my money up front, as he started to increase his price. But you dealing with racism and the mob boys. You seen 5 Heartbeats? Them dude, the black dude picking the game up from the mafia. What'd he do? He put the dude over the banister because the dude wanted to talk about his contract and was ready to kill him because he operating like the mob. And then what happened in the early on the Black Godfather? If you seen the Black Godfather, who Clarence Avant got put on he got put on by the what you call it? The management company of the mob. Clarence Avant was just a puppet. Like he said himself. I don't know about no music business. I don't know about managing. And the white dude like, don't worry about it. I just want you to handle these black artists. Go over here and talk to so-and-so. Then he put a couple of white artists with him. Don't worry about it, because it didn't matter, because we control the industry. See? That's the real play. See? We control it. We make you a star. Dr. Dre got on with Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine and Ted Cruz. Ted Fields, the billionaire, is one of the reasons why Dre is who he is. They had the money and the power. See? Snoop don't have no power. He probably will never get the masters. These white folk ain't finna let you get that, and they had that type of power, and now you can go in and negotiate and leverage that type. Jay-Z can barely get his. I think he paid $5 million for his masters. But at the end of the day, the masters only has value based on the person that controls it. So if you control the value, then you control the wealth. Well, if we don't want your music in our distribution system, we ain't putting it in there. We ain't finna play your song on the radio. We ain't finna put your money in your songs in the streaming services like Spotify and Amazon and iTunes. We decide if we want to fuck with y'all, because in order for these white folk to stay in power, they have to control the entities that dictate whether or not you get to the big prize, which is the distribution. Streaming services, getting the record to the public, getting the record played on the radio, getting the spins. Negroes don't control that. We don't control that. I got a couple of books, man. One of them I bought, Dr. Amos Wilson, The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat Towards the Reclamation of the African Mind. That topic alone is deep, because in order for you to become the power player you are, you have to operate from a point of African consciousness in order to play the game of power with the European. See, you can't be operating from the subservient position. See, it's cool. Snoop can put all new artists on there and he can run them through, but let's look at that. Is Snoop gonna be able to run them through, get a major play, get a major exposure, when he got to go to the white folk to do it? Dr. Dre barely got Eminem out. They wasn't finna let Dre do him. He had to kick, scream, bitch, and complain to get Eminem out. And that's a white artist. They didn't want to back Eminem. They didn't want Eminem up in that space, man. One of the people said, one of the girls, he got blue eyes. Okay, well, what was that about? He's not one of us. He's a Gentile. You see what I'm saying? We from that other tribe that started with a J, the one that Whoopi Goldberg got tripped on. See, even let's take that situation. Whoopi just made a comment about man's inhumanity to man, and guess what they did? They suspended her for 2 weeks. Not because she said nothing, man, that was real damaging. It's just that, nigga, we gonna flex our power any way we can so that you Negroes know we in charge. See, Snoop already know what it is. That's why he looking towards, let's make a new death row. He know he ain't gonna be able to hardly get Tupac catalog. He didn't, to me personally, he didn't do good with his own record label. See, people caught up in the name. And sometimes, man, old names, they do just what they do. They die hard. Why resurrect Death Row Records in a climate like this? All the misogyny, all of the women out here talking about the Me Too movement, man, that shit, if they was out there doing what they was doing then, now, these women, man, would be protesting, which they were back in the day, but there would be even more issues. Snoop got a sexual assault charge that has been levied against him from some broad from way back in 2013 because she claimed that, you know, Bishop Don Juan and Snoop made her do some unwanted sexual acts, but she was promised TV shows and blase. Okay, who's to say? But you see the outcome. And that's the real problem we having. In the back of my mind, I think in the back of Snoop's mind, I believe Snoop know it's gonna be hard as hell for me to get this catalog and for me to be able to really bubble. Because you're gonna have to acquire somebody in the making of Death Row. It's cool you got the name. The name is what it is. You bought the name. You got the name. It's under your ownership now. But it's going to require something different. Death Row Records got a bad reputation. Who's willing to take that risk? These artists now, you going to get some killers on the label again? That ain't where you at no more, Snoop. Snoop ain't in that mindset no more. You know, he peace, love, and hair grease. So, I'm gonna wrap this thing up, man. But people, especially black folk, have to understand the dichotomy of business. The difference between having something and owning something. If you got a name and that's all you got, you don't own shit that's associated with that name. Period. You don't own shit that's associated with that name. And that's the reality to it. You're not there. You know, we would hope he would be there, but you're really not there because at the end of the day, the real play is the music. The name can go any direction, but it's you having that catalog that makes you powerful. See, you having the catalog. Suge lost it in the tussle under bankruptcy. Somebody else picked it up. They played with it. Boom. And guess what? They turn around and they offed it. They offed it to somebody else. And what? They got their money and somebody else got it. Then it ended up in some other hands. Now it's over somebody else. These folk not finna let you get it because you dealing with corporations. See, you dealing with corporations. And corporations ain't playing fair. They not playing the game that Snoop playing. He coming with love. These people coming with a devilish spirit. So I'm going to leave this at where it is, man. Look, check me out. Cool Water, the Digital Dope Man at ishiphopdead.com. Look for me at the home base site, thedigitaldopeman.com. And just ponder that, man. Ponder what Amos Wilson is really saying. A blueprint for black power. In order for black power to be acquired by someone of African descent, you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to go to war to acquire that because these other ethnicities ain't playing that game. The Asian is taking over the world. The European is already in control and he's slowly being diminished and demolished by his Asian brother. His Asian brother is taking over now. So they getting scared because now they're going to have to be subservient to the Asian where they've been ruling the planet for God knows how many centuries. I'm out, man. Cool Water Digital Dope, man. Check me out, ishiphopdead.com and the home base site, thedigitaldopeman.com, man. Let's see what happens with Snoop. And we wish him the best. Harry O may have some other things that he add to it, but He been in prison all this time, man. He ain't got no power either. Peace and stay blessed. Holla.